probably don't remember our first step. Recently, while watching my great-nephew, I was reminded of the significance of this first step. The coaxing, the anticipation, the encouraging words, the practice over and over, until one day, little Brian lets go of his mommy's fingers and steps out on his own. And from that point on, his life has changed. He's facing numerous new opportunities. They're endless. But not only his life has changed, but you know his mother was on the phone calling friends and relatives saying he took his first step. And her life has changed also because Brian stepped out. She'll have new opportunities chasing him all over the place. What about us? Is it easy for us to step out? Isn't it nice to just stay in our comfort zone where it's predictable? Do you remember the first time you came to a Toastmasters meeting? It was risky, scary, unpredictable. Let's look at another story. This one comes from Matthew 14 in the Bible, and the story takes place shortly after the disciples learned that John the Baptist had been beheaded. They told Jesus, and he was upset, wanted to be alone by himself to pray, but of course the crowd followed him, and he took pity on them, healed the sick, even fed over 5,000 of them. And then when they were finished eating, he immediately made the disciples get in the boat and go on to the other side ahead of him while he dismissed the crowds. After he dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But by this time, the boat, battered by waves, was far from the land, for the wind was against them. Early in the morning, he came walking toward them on the sea. When the disciples saw him, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost!" But Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid, take heart, it is I." Peter answered him, saying, "Lord, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." And Jesus said, "Come." So Peter, getting out of the boat, stepped out onto the water, and walking on the water came toward Jesus. But when he noticed the wind, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he called out, "Lord, save me." And Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him and said, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Now, I think we would all agree that Peter stepped out. Why did he do it? I think he was passionate to be a disciple. He was determined to follow Christ wherever he went. And when he called out and said, "Lord, is that you?" and was sure it was Jesus and heard that command to come, it was all he could do to get out of that boat. He wasn't a toe dipper. He got out there and walked on the water towards Jesus. And because he did, he had endless opportunities. He experienced the power of Christ by doing that. And yeah, he gets a lot of bad rap for having lost faith midway through, but don't we all do that sometimes? We get out there and say, "What was I thinking?" But even then, he experienced the power of Christ saving him. Well, what about the other guys in the boat, the disciples? Weren't they also passionate about following Christ? Why didn't they get out? And what did they do when Peter got out? Were they saying, "Go, Peter, you can walk, you can do it"? Or were they holding onto his cloak saying, "You're crazy, buddy, you're going to die"? I think whatever their response, because of Peter's walking out, their lives were also changed. They experienced the power of Christ similarly, because remember the last line of the story. Those in the boat, the fishermen, the captain, the sailors, the disciples, worshipped him and said, "Truly, you are the Son of God." So I bet you when they hit the shore, they were also telling their friends, maybe not on the phone, but they were also telling their friends and their lives had changed. So I encourage all of us to look at those opportunities that we have to step out. And when we do step out, whether it's in our personal life, our professional life, or our spiritual lives, grab hold of those opportunities and keep an eye on the ones walking with us or watching us, and be sure that their lives are also changed.